talk about projection just to really kind of make it super clear for everybody?
Sure.
Let's talk about that. So my understanding of projection is for somebody to hold a narrative or some series of notions that actually have no basis in reality, or maybe a very small basis in reality, but they've blossomed into some kind of crazy story. And then they will take that story and place that story on you. So if people are projecting, they're actually projecting or placing all kinds of stories about the person that have no basis in reality. And then they are relating to that person based on their projections.
Absolutely.
So it's as if we have, you know, like the Michelin Man, these kind of like big balloon. So if you can imagine two of those, and we look two of those balloon men, and layer after layer after layer after layer around them is a layer of protection, another layer of protection, another layer of protection. By the time two people meet in this wounded place, they're meeting all the way out at the very, very end of the very, very last layer of their protection. And projection is a part of protecting the self.
Absolutely, it
and
always
so
is.
To even try to find the core, the authentic self in that construct, we have to take off layer by layer by layer by layer by layer. That's psychotherapy. That's what I'm doing with clients wounded in this way.
That's what we do. So I think we've talked about, we didn't talk about the monkey study and the understanding, and I think you wanted to talk about the monkey study.
We can talk about it just really briefly because it's horrible. I don't know. A lot of people know briefly about it. There's a theorist or researcher named Harlow a number of years ago.
Yeah, he's in the first chapter of my book.
What did you say about him? Why is he in that chapter?
The Rhesus Monkeys?
Yeah,
and the bonding?
Yeah, but what did you say? You used the monkey study?
Well, the monkey study is what we found with Rhesus Monkeys is, you know, you've got a wire mother with a heater in her, and she's wrapped in terry cloth. Then you have another wire monkey, and these monkeys were raised. One group with the wire mother, and the other with the wire mother wrapped it with a heater. And
the soft.
And the healthy monkeys, the monkeys that they saw that had healthy development and healthy interpersonal relationships, had the soft, warm mother. And the ones that became isolates and couldn't relate to anyone or anything had just the plain wire mother. Now, what we got from this is also that these Rhesus monkeys, what was more important for them in development was to have the warm mother, even more important than nutrition.
Well, that was the theory at the time.
At the time.
Right? So the theory at the time was, and this is what Harlow tried to either prove or disprove, there was an initial belief that bonding occurred with the person that provided the food.
Right.
And that's what this study was actually set up to either prove or disprove.
That's correct.
And so the wire kind of armature, you know, like a mannequin, the wire mannequin is actually the mannequin that the monkeys got their food from.
Right.
But the padded mannequin was what the monkeys clung to.
That's correct.
For security, safety, and regulation.
Absolutely.
And so what was then proved, supposedly, in this study, and there were three, as I understand it, there were three things that were done there. Monkeys were, one, isolated completely, which they could never recover from that. They could never socially bond or anything like that. And then monkeys were given just the wire and the food, and then monkeys were given the padded and the wire and the food.
With the heater in the middle.
Yeah. And the heater, it was the heater and the food, and then the other one was just soft.
Right. But anyway, that's
so. Okay. We know that study.
So be a warm, and toasty mom, and the kid. You won't have to feed the kid as much. Anyway.
You know, this is so interesting because, like, nourishment, I'm all about mother-child bonding, nourishing the child through that eye gazing, through the literal transmission of love. Quick story, if I may. When my son was very young and I'd pack him lunch for school, and every day he'd come home from school and I'd say, how are you? How was your day? Did you eat your lunch? And finally he said, why are you always asking me if I ate my lunch? And I said, because I love you and I make your lunch with love, and if you eat the food that I made you with my love, it feels like you're actually able to metabolize how much I love you. And so I'm all about this notion of nourishing your child through the eye gazing.
Right.
And if you have a well-nourished child, it's true, you don't have to feed them as much. I like that. That's our study.
I didn't expect to say that one.
That's the Fishkin-O'Marty study.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, have we talked about all of the adult behaviors we can expect to see with broken
I don't know.
bonds and attachment?
I don't know if we have
Well,
all. Is there anything else that you can come up with? My primary things that I've noticed
Right.
are inability to problem solve, lack of capacity to tolerate frustration,
Right.
and anger. And also this behavior that tracks back to childhood, this kind of like jet skiing across the surface,
Right.
really the inability to stay with anything.
Right.
So it's taking in information in bites
Right.
as opposed to actually taking in a larger piece of information and then synthesizing it and understanding it through your own experience.
But that takes introspection and
Self-awareness?
and self-awareness and a certain amount of self-like.
That's all
because
true.
you have to like what you're feeling inside and not reject it or try to block it out or resent it.
Well, you don't even have to like it. One of the things that I notice with people struggling with addiction is 2A1, they all say, well, you know, I haven't been able to think about that or feel that because it makes me uncomfortable. And I've now named this the dreaded uncomfortable. I mean, so what? I feel uncomfortable some of the time. It's no big deal to me.
Right.
What's the problem? So you don't need to slam dope because you feel uncomfortable.
Well, I think again, back to the issue of the threshold. The
Agreed.
lower our threshold for tolerating frustration and
Feeling states, the affective states that are
Right.
not great.
Right. We have to kind of feel good about ourselves, and we have to feel and really understand what this threshold is so that we can process better. And because I think kids that don't have healthy bonding don't process well at all. And what they do process is, I'm not good enough. People hate me. I hate myself, and that whole litany of stuff that we've already talked about. So,
Reactive attachment disorder is when a child's bonding experience with its caregiver's primary caregiver is interrupted. And if it is not repaired, if this kind of an interruption is not repaired,
and most aren't.
then we have a child who becomes quite disengaged and cannot bond with other adults, cannot bond growing up and form successful adult relationships. And I really wanted to get this in.
Right.
I actually have a reactive attachment disorder client at the moment. She's making my life miserable because she can't accept my love. She can't accept my acceptance. It doesn't feel safe. She doesn't trust it.
Okay, so what's your therapeutic? Okay, so what is your process in treating this it's a she? Mm-hmm. And what is your process in treating her? What does your therapeutic outline look like?
Gosh, what a good question. My therapeutic process with her is to simply allow her hold space and help her tolerate what she feels.
That's it.
That's what I'm doing.
That's all you have to do. And you can spend a year, 2 years just doing
Yes, it's a
getting
long
to that.
process.
It's a lot of processing.
Yes.